Hi, how y'all doing? It is Wednesday, April 23rd, about 7:20 in the evening as of recording this. See, I can drag a brush through my wolf hair when the mood strikes me or the need arises. Somebody had asked last night if I had cut my hair or shaved. No, I hadn't. I'm coming to need to do both. I'm really needing a shave. I'm getting the Wolfman beard is starting to get to the point where it irritates me. And my hair, if I don't drag a brush through it, has to be a brush, not a comb. Like I said, it's very thick. My hair's very thick. It's like wolf hair. Wolves are my favorite critters, so it tracks. We had an appointment today with Joey's therapist, not his ABA therapist, his therapist, shrink therapist. And it was a progress meeting. So I thought I would be a little bit more presentable than I usually feel like giving folks. And certain aspects of it are what I wanted to talk about tonight, because I've had that bunch of asshats jump on here and actually get mad at me in the comments for being real about my ex-wife and the pain that she has caused me and that she still tries to cause me. The fact that she still tries to make things difficult for me in every way possible. And I also have, more regulars telling me that I shouldn't, give her headspace because she doesn't deserve it and whatnot. To a point, that's true. But at the same time, this woman, she was my life for a very long time. And then she decided that she was going to ruin my life. And she devoted herself to trying to do that 10,000 times more than she ever devoted herself to anything during our marriage or our relationship. And she continues to purposely go out of her way to make things harder for me. She goes out of her way to belittle me and put me down and blame me for problems that she herself has created. it's very hard to not give her headspace. It's very hard to, just push her out because she was, and unfortunately still is, such a huge part of my life. On account of Joey. And she can't just cooperate. She can't just accept that we are together, his parents, even though we aren't together. She has to meddle. She has to, push buttons because she is not satisfied with the situation. She wants to take Joey away from me entirely. Her mother divorced her father when she was about 3 or 4 years old. And her mother completely and totally destroyed that man's life. She took everything from that man, everything he had. She took it from him, and he never recovered. He ended up homeless and was homeless, a drifter for the rest of his days. Died in an alley in Los Angeles a few years ago. No family. Nobody be there to comfort him or hold his hand. He died in a fucking alley. Alone. And my ex-wife's mother, his ex-wife, is responsible for that. And my ex-wife tried to do me the same way her mother did her father. I know that. Her mother coached her on what to do. Her mother was the orchestrator of our divorce. I remember for a long time, she would get home from work and she would just sit out there in the car because she'd be talking to her mother, having private conversations that I was not privy to. I never had no such conversations with my parents or anyone else. She was my wife. I didn't keep things from her. I didn't have privacy where she was concerned. She was my wife. And I thought that as her husband, I would be, the same would be reciprocated. It was not. And it was not, because she was sitting out there planning my downfall, my demise. No other way to say it. And the way that she conducts herself now is just more proof that, she is angry about the way the divorce went. She is angry that she could not run me out of this house. She is angry that she could not take this house from me. She knew how much this house meant to me, what it meant to me. And during the divorce, she was desperate to take it. She didn't want it, mind you. She hated this house. She wanted something new and modern, which is what she has now, and the son of a bitch is falling apart around her ears. So we had this meeting today, and the therapist was going over, progress Joey's made, some things and places that still need work, and she mentioned some of the problems that relate to the divorce and to my ex-wife. And my ex-wife immediately tries to spin it as all of these problems are my fault. Little Miss can't be wrong. Little Miss can't do wrong. She's not at fault for anything. She's done nothing wrong. Fortunately, the therapist was like, no, you have some things that you are accountable for, and we need to make Joey more aware of this. We need to make Joey understand that, the divorce was inevitable and ultimately for everybody's good, without letting him feel like it was his fault. My ex-wife is all about keeping secrets from the people that are supposed to matter to her. She did me. And she's doing that with Joey. And the therapist said, without getting into the weeds, it is good to be honest with him and, explain to him that this is what happened and why. My ex-wife did not like that. The therapist did not jump on her side and immediately try to accuse me of doing things that I should not and have not done. I spoke for myself, and the therapist was very understanding. She was trying to be understanding of both of us, but she could see that my ex-wife was unfairly trying to place blame for everything on me. There is an issue. I spoke about it before. When Joey was 6 months old, we tried to sleep train him. It was something I was open to get him out of the bed, get him in his crib. But she was very, very, very adamant that we do this and that we do it then. She was reading all these bullshit books that, and on all these forums and Facebook groups about raising children scientifically. And this bullshit was like, treating your infants, your babies, like they're freaking lab rats. No empathy, no feeling, no nothing. Just do this and do that, I went with it. It's here, upstairs in what was once our room is now my room. She put him down in the crib. She and I laid down in bed. We were supposed to be quiet, not make a sound, not let him know that we were there. And let him work it out for himself and fall asleep. Let him cry himself to sleep. He was crying and crying and crying. 10-15 minutes of this. He was not getting tired. He was tired, but he was not stopping. He was taxing himself. He was so very clearly terrified. There's a 6-month-old baby, terrified beyond belief. He didn't even sound like a human baby anymore. He was beginning to sound like a wounded animal that saw death, the jaws of death closing in around its throat. I broke. My, call it paternal instinct. I logically knew he was safe, he was okay, even though he was exhausting himself, and not to the point of sleep, like to the point of maybe actually hurting himself. Because he was exhausted, but he was not stopping. He was desperate. I broke. I jumped up out of bed. I scooped him out of the crib, held him to my chest, was comforting him. She lost her ever-loving shit. She jumped up out of bed, started yelling at me, telling me to put him back in the crib. He's got to do this. He can do this. He has got to learn to do this. And I just looked at her and, I didn't know who she was because I didn't. And I just came downstairs and sat down on the couch with him. She followed me downstairs and was still yelling at me and having a living shit fit at me for what I learned, what I already kind of knew on and off, but what I learned more and more was the only way things could work for her, and that's her way or the highway. We have to do it exactly her way, or there is no way. And that's how she is now. Everything's got to be her way, the way she wants it, the way she likes it. She tries to make rules in my house when she doesn't live here anymore. There is no cooperation to her. Cooperation to her is doing everything her way. And that's how it was this night. Standing there yelling at me for not letting the process complete like it's a fucking program. Joey is, calm and happy in my arms, laying on me, and I told her we're gonna do something else. We're gonna have to work around it. Something. Mm-mm. She was so angry. She reached down and tried to take my son out of my hands, and it's the one time I have ever acted against her in a physical manner. She tried to grab hold of him. I redirected her hands. I know martial arts, like Keanu says. I know Kung Fu. I redirected her hands. I reached up, I put my hand on her chest, and I pushed her across the living room. She almost fell down on her ass. She managed to save it. I wasn't trying to hurt her, but I was making sure that she knew under no uncertain terms that what she just tried to do was a no-no. And I said, don't you ever try to take him out of my hands again. And she stomped her feet and huffed like a child and ran back upstairs and then proceeded to text me for the next half hour about how I was wrong and what I was doing was wrong, and we had to let him learn to fall asleep. By this time, he had already fallen asleep. And I said, he's asleep now, genius. Leave me alone. And something clicked for me that night. I was worried before because of our differences, social, political differences, that when children came into the mix, I was worried that it was going to be a problem. And that night I understood that yes, we are going to have problems. This is not going to be easy. We are not going to work together on this because we have very different ideas on how to do this. And I was willing to find other ways to work slowly into it. She was balls to the wall, wanting to do this right now, right away, only way to do it. So, that happened. Joey was 6 months old. Joey's 7 years old now, and he remembers that. He started talking to me about it not long after I came home from the rehab. Brought it up to me one day. I was standing on my crutch, washing dishes. Come to me and said, Daddy, I have this thing that I remember, but I don't know what it is, and I don't like it. But I can't stop thinking about it. And I said, what's that, sweetheart? He said, it's a funny memory. He said, it's like a broken memory. It's flashes and pictures, sounds. He said, I couldn't move. He said, I think I was a baby. He said, Mama put me down in the dark, and I was scared. He said, Mama disappeared, and I was scared. I was so scared, and he's trying to formulate how to, tell me what he was feeling, because it's hard for him to really understand what he was feeling. Scared, I was scared. I was so afraid. And, he to him, he was begging for help. Begging for, somebody to save him. That's what he perceives. That's what he remembers. And at first, I tried to, put it off to a bad dream. It was just a bad dream you had, sweetheart. And he said, no, Daddy. He said, this was not a dream. He said, I know this wasn't a dream. He said, I remember this. He said, I was scared. He said, I was begging for help. He said, I wasn't talking. I didn't know how to talk. But I know I was begging for help. And then he said, you were there. He said, and everything was okay. And he kept talking about this and talking about this. And I don't believe in lying to him about important things when he's old enough to have an understanding of the topic. And this was something that he was feeling. This was something that he couldn't put away, something he couldn't make go away. He had to understand it. So I said, okay. Because he would talk to me about it all the time. Daddy, I don't know what to do about this. I don't know what to do with this feeling. It's scary and it hurts and it makes me feel like I can't trust Mama. So I said, okay. I said, what you remember did happen. But I told him, I said, your mama and I were trying to sleep train you so you could sleep by yourself. I said, your pediatrician told us to do this. I said, some of these books your mama was reading told us to do this. I said, I went along with it. I said, nobody was trying to hurt you. I said, your mama was not trying to hurt you. Your mama wasn't trying to scare you. She was just trying to teach you to sleep by yourself. I said, and yes, you were really scared. I said, and I could not just lay there and let you scream. I said, I had to pick you up. I had to comfort you. I said, you shouldn't blame your mama for anything. I said, she wasn't trying to hurt you. I said, she was just trying to teach you how to sleep by yourself. But this is something that was so profound to him, I guess, when he was 6 months old, that his mind has held on to fragments of it. And my ex-wife today, to this therapist, had the balls, the big old hairy sack, to tell this therapist that I am lying to my son. And that I am doing it to make her look bad, because there is absolutely no way he can remember that. So I had to have told him about this to use it against her, to make him not like her and make him not trust her. That I did this to make her look bad to my own son. And I don't have to do that because her dumbass makes her look bad all by herself. But she had the big old hairy balls to come out in front of me to this therapist and try and say that I did this to use against her and turn my son against her. Which is not something I would ever, ever, ever do. But it's something that she would do. So of course, I must be guilty of doing something similar. She said, there's no way that he can remember something from when he was 6 years old. And I said, the hell there isn't. I said, I'm 41 and I remember shit from when I was 2 and 3. I didn't say shit in front of the therapist. I said, I remember stuff from when I was 2 and 3. I said, he's 7 years old. I said, it's perfectly feasible to think that he might have flashes of memory from when he was an infant. And the therapist agreed. She said, yes. She said oftentimes children can retain, things from their infancy that impressed upon their minds to a certain extent. Maybe not verbatim, maybe not everything that happened, but they absolutely can remember that. And my ex-wife was sitting there on that sofa, tomato red, angry as hell, because the therapist wasn't taking her side. The therapist was trying to remain neutral and make this about Joey. My ex-wife tried to make this shit about her. And that is why I complain about her, and I talk about her, and I rant on her. I never drag her down, not needlessly. Anytime I say something about her, it is 110,000% factual. And it is done and caused by her. She did it. She said it. And it's shit like this why I can't, just put her out of my head. Because I know I can never, relax. I can never turn my back. I know for the next 10 plus years, she's going to be doing everything she can to submarine me and Joey, to try to put distance between me and Joey, because she wants to separate us. She wants me to die. Is what she wants. If I died tonight, when she found out, she would dance an Irish jig, which would be quite the feat for as clumsy and out of shape as she's in. But she would do it. Up over the moon she would be. Because she wants to separate the bond that Joey and I have. She wants to be his world. She wants him to look at her like she is Mother of the Year every day. That's why I get on here and I rant about my ex-wife. I'm at my time limit. Hope you all have a good evening. My GoFundMe link is in the description. Donate if you want. If you don't, that's fine. Okay. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.